Going on, my friends? I'm Recognition City Tal. This is your seat at the table. You know what? We're going to go down the rabbit hole just a hair. I've been listening. I watched a number of the replayed videos from CGL's countdown day for the Kickstarter and in the commentary sections and things like that in there, and some other comments from Red's channel, conversations that come in there occasionally, got me thinking about factions. Factions come, factions go, factions die. But do they always, is that always how it plays out? Keep in mind, when we're talking Battletech here, when it comes to factions, Comstar's not dead. Hello? Got some news for you, Chuckles. It's a fantasy setting. Under no circumstances does anybody truly disappear. Now, in the progression of the timeline, they do, grant you. But we have eras. And CGL has done a really good job. I'm becoming more aware of earlier Catalyst material that came out that, thanks to a couple generous folks in some PDFs, I've gotten to view some books that I didn't even know existed, and in the process of reading them, and of course, and eventually doing my 2 cents worth on them. But the point I'm getting at is that the eras set the setting. Over and over and over again, I hear it a lot. There's a lot of players, and myself included, that prefer the 30-25 era. I have no problem playing in any era. I mean, I'd have no problem playing at all. It's been so long since I've been able to actually sit down with somebody and actually do it on the table. But you go back, I had not a lot of beefs to it, but I like the setting better than I do later evolutions of the setting. But that doesn't mean that those later evolutions are bad. They're just, they're just my personal thing. So from the perspective of, well, it's sad that Comstar died or it went out of business and faded away. Well, first off, even Catalyst may shelf an idea and sit there and say, it's not going to fit our plan. But they will never 100% say no, because there's always that 1% chance down the road suddenly it becomes pertinent, or it fits, or somebody just gets enough off their, they get enough bug in their butt to go and say, hey, you know what, let's just go ahead and spin this up too and see what happens. And this is one of the reasons why they introduce some of the Section War books and the Age of War material. The idea is to give you those eras. So you can easily play a Comstar faction in any era that the Comstar is pertinent to. As an example, you wanted to play, in Clan Wolverine, you can do that during the era that they were pertinent to the storyline, when they were existing and fighting for their survival. I mean, anything after that fact is pure mystery and speculation on part of the lore on purpose, which is fine. And more about what your game campaign or your group goes off into and turns your particular thing into, because everybody's system, or generally everybody's game experience is different, and everybody's long-term experiences are different. So if you're fortunate enough to have the same group of people and you play on a regular basis, you can get into some longer campaigns or some things that take more details to play. This is one of the things I like the 30-25 era so much for, is because I don't want to say it's a purist, but from an old person's perspective, of the older player's perspective, the simplicity of the rules is really nice. The setting is convoluted but clean. I mean, things have gone in it's such a shotgun mess right now. The inner sphere and all the factions, it's horrible, and it's hard to navigate through, and it's hard to see it that way from where it originally came out of. And yeah, everything was a hot mess too. I mean, the inner sphere is the inner sphere. Okay, so when I sit there and I say, well, that faction is dead, and I'm glad it's dead, or I'm sad, I'm sorry, they wrote it out, we don't have it no more. My issues, of course, come number of forms. The second form would be even from the perspective of beta canon, which is stuff that's the fan base decides is factual or worthy enough to have included in the possibility range of giving people ideas and things for their own campaigns. Is that these Comstar, Word of Break, they're huge. They're a faction because they're massive. They're not some tiny little punky faction fighting over a portion of a world or over of a single system or something. No, the resources and manpower that's was so large that the idea that at least a small percentage didn't get away, didn't fade into the background, didn't bury themselves in a hole somewhere for 50 years. I mean, that all is plausible and tradition in sci-fi settings. I mean, it's in fantasy settings in general. So the possibilities are that they could something could rise out of the ashes thereof. And we've seen a few breakdowns of that, my understanding. So but they didn't get any traction. And then there was the one book in Opportunity where there's this possible Word of Blake field agent that's manipulating or trying to resurge his faction's power or something like that. You know, that's a bad when I talk about red herrings are fish. So if you put them in there and you don't plan on using them, they're going to stink eventually, and people are going to will sour on it because of it. Beside that, the story's okay. It's not great. It's not great. It's just another punky wannabe would be, because I mean, Duke Brewster was a Duke, is a Duke for a reason, even though he's not officially able to lay claim to Hesperus, his home, his ducal, his setting, holding, means he has to set up shop in some other world. And it's just it's such a small event in a larger mess that's going on that I'm sure eventually will matter. It will build up as a stepping stone to something else, but it was underwhelming, I guess, is my best. It was a good novel. I read it. I probably will go back and read it again. I don't generally buy books to not read them more than once, but it'll be a while, and maybe I'll see I'll get something else different out of it. I was not quite happy with the ending part and the fact that come out later that, oh well, Warebake's dead and there isn't going to be anything coming back and there's nothing going to rise out of the ashes. So why let that element be in there? That element could have easily been tweaked to represent a clan operation, although I don't see that they would do that sort of thing, or an opposing faction, another faction's operation that's just traditional for for the Inner Sphere, for Battletech. Or maybe some other third nefarious party that's yet to be seen on the, yet another conspiracy possibility. Just some thoughts, just to keep in mind when you're talking about your factions. Are they really, really gone, or just gone, at the store? You can still buy their stuff. I mean, they're still producing their material. You just have to go by choosing an era that they fit in. I mean, try taking clan era technology back to the Age of War and see what happens. I mean, I'm going to throw a time travel thing in there, but kind of what I'm getting at. The Age of War was what it is, and you're using simpler stuff, but simpler doesn't make it worse. It doesn't make the game any less intense. It's just is what it is. Anyway. Going on, my friends, this is Rick, and hey, if you like the channel, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, tell your buddies, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, tell anybody else that's in the gaming industry or gaming fandom that says, hey, this is a channel worth checking out, right? Till next time.